Hello to the Golden Nugget Nation. Gary Jenkins here, speaking to those of you who wish to come in and ask your questions. I always have an answer. I like a phrase that I heard years ago. It came out of a movie called Far Horizons. It was a musical version where the line was, "Ask me any question. Your question may be wrong, but I guarantee my answer will be right," which I quite enjoy that concept. Last week, a great deal of time was spent on talking about energy. The energy of the universe is constant, it does not change. And Einstein said that time does not really exist because energy cannot be destroyed. It always exists. The same amount of energy that existed at the moment of the start of the universe will be there at the end of the universe. Energy cannot be destroyed. It's only matter. Matter can be put back into energy. Energy can be turned into matter, but the energy is always there. So, obviously, this idea about entropy, about energy becoming less and less and less in time, does not mean in the total sum of energy. It's just that the energy is always there. And that time, therefore, is a constant illusion. We all believe that time's there. It's like a concept that we all accept as being there. And I don't know about you, but there have been numerous times in my life when I felt like I didn't have the time. I didn't have the opportunity to utilize the energy I had to be productive. And what I had to do for myself is get rid of that whole concept saying, I just don't have the time. Obviously, I have the time. I may not get it done in the time frame that I'm trying to deal with, but I do have the time to get the project completed because there is no time. I once worked for years in mental health. And one of the concepts that people often talked about in mental health was the fact that you were constantly putting out fires in the lives of other people, putting out fires in your caseloads, because people would kind of like come in and drop bombs on you all the time. And now it required you to do an awful lot of effort in trying to get things back to the normal, the homeostasis that us human beings love to live in. We like to have our homes at a certain temperature comfort level in the wintertime and in the summertime. And when it gets too hot or too cold, we typically go turn on the heat or open a window or turn on the air conditioning, depending on where we live and what modern conveniences we have. But the truth of the matter is, we like things to be pretty normal, pretty stable. We like to have a certain amount of food each day. We like to have a certain amount of drink each day. And we learn to get very used and comfortable to that. And when something comes in from out of the ordinary, when something comes in that's not planned for, we tend to react to it as if it's a crisis, a fire. And one day I was in a group of therapists and we were discussing about all the fires that had just come out that day. And we were kind of like laughing and trying to make light of situations that we're not comfortable to be dealing with. And we had a brand new supervisor who started working with us like a week or two before. And this supervisor listened to us all and finally said, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't believe in fires. I have no fires in my life. He says, I just work and take care of things so that they never happen. And there was an undercurrent of anger, undercurrent of a lack of appreciation for what we were doing, an undercurrent of this person just doesn't understand our caseloads. But the lesson I got from them is, well, maybe I can do something more. And I remembered a story from years ago when I was I was a cowboy, and on the ranch they always talked about the story of John. I don't know who John was. He was probably some mythical character, but John was not a bright guy. And when he showed up on a farm, he was asked, what are your qualifications? And John says, well, I know I always can sleep when the wind blows. Well, the farmer didn't understand what he was talking about, but he did know he needed a hand, and the only guy applying was John. And so he gave John like a list of things he needed done. And over time, he realized, John gets everything done. His work is very good quality. There's nothing really much for me to complain about. And then one night, the wind started blowing. A big storm was coming in. And the farmer tried to wake up John to come out and help him get everything all set up for the sudden storm that was coming in. But John was sound asleep. And so finally, the farmer, frustrated, went out there to do what he needed to do. So the first thing he did was he went out there where the livestock was to get it into shelter, and found that all the livestock was already in shelter. He then went out to make sure that the hay was covered, that the silos doors were closed, etc. And he discovered that the hay was already covered. He found that all the silo doors were closed, that there was no chance of rain falling on these items, ruining them. He moved on to other projects. He found that all the fences were closed. He found that all the barriers had been taken care of. And the farmer came back into the house, and he realized what John meant when he asked, what are your qualifications? Because you see, John had taken care of everything as if tonight there was going to be a fire, as if tonight there was going to be a storm. He didn't know that, but he did this every night so that he could sleep when the wind blew. And I recalled that story, and I started operating and managing my caseloads the same way. Nothing was left undone. It would be very rare for me to get a phone call in the middle of the night telling me that somebody was in crisis, that somebody didn't know what to do because of pain or an anguish or something that had happened in their life. Now, one of the things that happened where I worked was you took care of your primary people, but for 1 week each month, you were a backup for 3 other therapists. So if they couldn't be getting a hold of, and they should have been, but sometimes they just could not be gotten a hold of, person could be switched over to me because they were in crisis, and I could talk to them and see what needed to be done. And there was only one time out of all those phone calls over a 7-year period of my life that honestly nobody could have been prepared for. And that was an automobile accident that took the life of this person's child. No way that anybody could have planned for that or had anticipated that it would happen that day. But all the other issues were things where if the therapist had actually taken time and prepared, had worked through scenarios, things that were supposed to be in the treatment plan and being done, and not just sit there and talk about things that didn't matter, but focused on the important, then things would have been a lot better off. And this takes me to a concept that's taught by Stephen Covey. Stephen R. Covey, amazing books, Seven Habit of Highly Successful People, The Eighth Habit, on and on. He wrote great books. He was a master. And one of the things that he taught in his concepts was the idea of having a ladder. You need a ladder to climb if you want to get over tall objects. And one of the points he always makes is, did you put the ladder against the right wall? Because when you're in an area where everything is pretty high, it's over your head, and you need to put a ladder against the wall, and there's 15 different walls, did you get it over the right wall? Did you put the ladder on the right wall and climb it? Because by the time you climb up a ladder, you've expended a lot of energy. And when you get there and you look over and say, oh, darn, it's 2 walls down is where I'm supposed to be. You have to climb down and go through that whole process all over again. So you're better off putting your ladder against the right wall. And I really love that concept. But the other concept that he taught is, do you allow the tyranny of the immediate to get in the way of what's truly important? I spent years doing marriage counseling with people. One of the biggest issues that came up. Now, I'll tell you, in marriage counseling, there's the big 3. There's sex, money, and children. Those big 3 come up in virtually every marriage counseling session that's ever going to go anywhere. But the most important thing is having the tyranny of the immediate getting in the way of what's really, truly important. Working those extra hours, trying to get a project done tonight, not coming home on time, leaving your partner perhaps stressed out and stranded from what's going on in their daily life. They were counting on you being there to take some of the burden off of raising children, whatever. There is a tyranny of the immediate. It comes up. It looks so important. It has to be dealt with now. It needs your attention, your immediate attention right away. The boss who walks in at 5 minutes before quitting time and says, we just got a call from this guy. We need to have this bid ready by tomorrow morning, etc. Does it really need to be done right now? How about if I come in tomorrow morning an hour and a half early and get the project already in time for launching the bid? Is that acceptable to you? I used to work in an estate agency where there were statutes that said that if you wanted to put a tenant out of a property, you had to give them exactly X amount of days in written notice. And you had to make it in a legal document, and you had to do all of these criteria. And usually, if you had a file and everything was in file and you could work through it quickly, you could generally give all the information and send it out. It'd take about 45 minutes for you to do it. And I had this one boss who was a master at taking these late landlord phone calls where the landlord wanted 10 properties vacated in the next 60 days or the 65 days, whatever the law was at the time that said we had to operate it. But in order to make it work on the day that the landlord wanted them out, we had to do things today. We had to get it into the post in 2 hours. We had to take it to a post office where they would stamp it that evening as being there on that certain date so that we could get things in according to mail time, etc. And they would expect you to stay and do the job. It was really frustrating. And I remember when this manager came in one night and said, "You're the only one here who knows how to do the job. I need you to take care of it." And I said, "I'm sorry, but my scheduled day ends at such and such a time. I don't get overtime. I don't want the overtime. I have something I have to take care of tonight. Just go back to the landlord and tell him we'll just have to do it tomorrow, and he's going to have to delay his exit date by 1 day. I couldn't believe the look that came from my manager, actually a director of my company, just glaring at me like, how dare you say that to me? And I said, well, let me tell you what, you've given me the files. I'll call the landlord and have a conversation myself. And I called the landlord and I said, you just issued these instructions about 4 minutes ago. This office shuts down in 45 minutes. I can get one of these done today before I go, but the others I can't get done. Wouldn't it be better if we just get them all done tomorrow morning, first thing, and they can go into the post? I said, because you understand what's going to happen now is we're going to have to take it into a town nearby where the post office will collect it. And we had some of them. I think we actually was like a 10-mile journey to get to a post office that would take anything after like 7 o'clock at night. And I said, so we're going to have to go in there, take it in so they can, and request that they stamp it as received today. And then it would go out. And I said, and in the limited amount of time, it's impossible to get all these done today. So I don't want you to be disappointed. I just want you to know that the end date will be X day as opposed to 1 day earlier. Landlord was fine with it. Said, yeah, I didn't realize. Yeah, it all makes real sense. Thank you for explaining it to me. Moving on. And not only that, but having had that conversation with the landlord it was actually told me later he had thought that the director was just overly optimistic that all this work could be done in the timeline that they had discussed, and appreciated the fact that somebody got a hold of him and it just kind of explained to him really how this kind of works, that does this job every day, and that this is how we can take care of it and make sure it gets done. Well, I got everything done as programmed. I came over to my boss. I said, hey, look, everything's done. Everything's all taken care of. Everything's certified. It's squared away. And the landlord is happy with it. Well, they weren't happy with me until the landlord came back and said, I wasn't going to deal with you guys anymore. But having talked to that guy who explained to me what seemed reasonable and rational and wasn't really what you were explaining at all, uh, made so much sense to me. I decided that I like having an honest person talking to me. And so I want to stay with you because of that guy. 10 properties. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money when you're letting properties in a real estate firm. And so this is how it works. This is what we have to do. We have to sit back and say the tyranny of the immediate is oftentimes only that. It's a tyranny. It's telling you it has to be done right now, and it doesn't. You need to deal with what is most important. Years and years and years ago, I was listening to a talk. I was part of Amway International, and this is an MLM, and there's a lot of hype when you go to MLM meetings. But one of the things that I was really amazed is I was listening to a young man by the name of DeVos. He was talking about his father. He told us that his father promised him one day that he would attend a sporting event he was involved in school. And his father was extremely busy running this international firm, taking care of the day-to-day fires that occurred in his business. And time just kind of got away from him a little bit. Now, where his son was playing was a distance away from where they normally were, and he was thinking that it was at the local school. And when he realized that he needed to leave really quickly, he also realized he probably didn't have time because there would be problems with traffic along the road. So he went through the expense of having a private helicopter pick him up at his offices, fly him to the high school where his son was, and he was going to take a ride home with his wife in her car afterwards. His son was speaking and said, when my dad arrived on time for the helicopter, everybody knew my father had come to see me play. And for me, it meant I was that important to my dad that he would go through the expense of getting a helicopter to fly him to this school so that he would be on time for the very start of the game. My father kept his word. And he said it wasn't until years later that his partner told me about what a horrible day he had dealt with, and that he was taking care of a lot of issues. And when he got to that point, when he realized he needed to leave and then noticed that the game was not where he thought it was, but much further away, he just ordered a helicopter. Just that simple. Told his secretary, here's my credit card, get a helicopter here to get me to that game. See, we all have to be masters of ourselves, and we have to keep our word. So where does that all begin with? I think the beginning of everything is gratitude. We have to have gratitude for that which we have already. And as we spoke earlier last week, we talked an awful lot about not only having gratitude at the start of what you do have, but having gratitude for that which you wish to have. And when I think about this man DeVos renting the helicopter, the purpose for keeping that commitment with his son was because his son was the important thing. And he was grateful for his son. He was grateful for the relationship he had with that son. And he wanted to keep that relationship on good terms. Now, I'm pretty sure that if Mr. DeVos hadn't made it to his son's game, his son would have been disappointed and there might have been some hurt feelings, etc. But the very fact that his father made it to the game, that he flew in a helicopter to get there, I imagine that just probably really drew the attention of everybody. But the fact that you are that important to me that I'd go through that expense and that effort to make sure I was here from the very start of the game. I mean, it's junior amateur athletics. But his son was as important as if he was in the final event of the Olympics. And that's how people need to be treated. That's how winners deal with things. That's what we have to do to make life move on. I wish I had always been that wise as a father. I wish I had always been that conscientious as a husband. But it's never too late to start. And it's never too late to be grateful for what you have and what you know is being created and coming your way. Every one of us was born to win. Every one of us was born to accomplish what we needed to accomplish. You know, I wrote a book. It's on Amazon. You can get there. It's The Ancients Knew How to Manifest Everything. And in that book, I tell a story. Not a story about, I don't want to say I'm bragging, or it's really far from bragging. It's truly humbling. But about when you are looking for a way to get something done and it just doesn't seem to be able to be accomplished. You have done everything you possibly can do, and you just don't know how you are physically going to do it. And I just want to kind of close with that story. I had moved into a small town. People in the town who heard that I had moved in, one of the things that they had learned was that I had been involved in Boy Scouts in my life, that I had been previously a scoutmaster, that I had earned the rank of Eagle Scout and all those things that are really important in the American scouting program. And the scoutmaster of a local troop that had just been organized maybe a month or two earlier, so they hadn't even existed before that. They had a scoutmaster who had promised to take the kids on a hiking adventure. Well, it's not really much of a backpack. It's really 5 miles, nothing spectacular, no really beautiful wilderness area. It's just like a 5 mile hike in, 5 mile hike out, because the boys needed to get some kind of credit towards uh, badges and things like that. The scoutmaster had taken him camping twice to the exact same spot, but they drove into the location. So the boys had never hiked there before. The week before this event was to happen, actually the weekend before, the scoutmaster had died of a heart attack. And so they didn't know what to do. And so the idea was, this guy knows something about scouting. Let's go get him, beg him to come and be our scoutmaster, and take the boys on the hike as planned next week. And these gentlemen, these you know, little village leaders, they came to me and they basically told me the story and sobbed, and we don't know what to do. We don't know anything about scouting. You're the only guy in town that knows anything about being a scoutmaster, on and on. I told him, look, I'll come out and I'll help you guys out. And I went to the next scout meeting, which was 2 days before the hike was to occur. When I showed up, I realized this scout troop knew nothing about scouting. They weren't even organized as a scout troop. They had a couple older boys who were more bully than leaders. And you had a bunch of young kids that they were just being sent there, and it was because the parents wanted them out of the house. Really, is what it boiled down to. And they were kind of hoping that somebody would redirect this young teenage boy, testosterone charged energy, preteen teenager aspect. And when I was there, not all the boys were present. They told me that all the boys were going to be there on Friday. I just basically kind of introduced myself to them and was appalled with the lack of any scouting that was going on, and realized I had a big task in front of me. And I was actually thinking about, you guys, good luck. You guys take care of it. So, I mean, this isn't really scouting, and I don't really want to go and retrain scouts how to do things. Well, I was promised. I said, look, I don't know the area. You've already promised them someplace where they're going to hike. I need a topographical map so I can understand where I am, what we're going to do, how to get from point A to point B, etc. And they promised me a topographical map. It's a field ordnance topographical map. It's got all kinds of ziggy lines. It gives you elevations so that you can tell whether you're going uphill, downhill, etc. And when I got there on the Friday evening to collect the boys to go, I was already told that there were 3 or 4 fathers that were going to take carloads of boys up. I'd be taking some of the boys, that we would have about 30 boys in total. They said, we don't have any fathers who are able to assist you. So I knew I was alone. But I figured, a 5-mile hike, what could that possibly be a problem? And when I asked where was the topographical map so I could just get an idea of what I was looking at for where we were going to hike, this father says, I'll get one in the car. I already had carloads of boys loaded up. One carload was waiting for a straggler by the name of Davy, who hadn't been there on the Wednesday night previous. Father comes to me with a notebook paper, some lines on it, like that was a topographical map, this is the route to the campgrounds and riverbed and hill. And I was like, gee whiz, what am I looking at? I have no clue where we're going, what we're doing. The boys have never hiked this thing. I'm not really sure what's happening. And when we get to the location, I've got the boys pretty much assembled. I've got them all kind of lined up, got their with their backpacks. I'm talking about safety and what we need to do, and I'm waiting for the last car. And the last car comes in, and I mean, literally, this guy drives in a cloud of dust. The doors open up, the kids all pile out, and the car doors slam, and they drive off in the same cloud of dust. And as the dust settles, I noticed one kid, he's got a brace on his leg. He's kind of really walking with a bad limp. I didn't realize what was going on, what was with this kid. And I walked over and I said, "Hi, I'm the scoutmaster today." And he says, "I'm Davy." He says, "Somebody's supposed to carry my backpack for me today because I can't carry it." you know, I suffer from disabilities. Well, I'm kind of shocked. Nobody told me anything about Davy. Uh, I see that his mother has packed everything you could possibly pack into a pack, including the kitchen sink. It is just so much heavier than it needs to be. And I realize I have to carry this pack as well as mine. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm taking the boys, and the boys are all marching off, and they're walking along, and it's just really kind of an amazing adventure. I don't know really what to be doing. And at the same time, the boys are walking faster than what Davy is capable of walking. And I'm carrying his backpack as my own. And I guess I need to make a precursor. A few years before that, I had a back spinal injury. So I'm walking along. Hi there, Kellyanne. And so I was just marching along, just being a good guy. I could hear the boys sometimes. They got far ahead of us. I couldn't see them, but I could always hear them. Boys are noisy when they're outdoors. And every once in a while, we'd close up and I'd see them again. But we finally got to a place where I saw that the walls of this wash we were walking in were getting higher and higher, but the wash wasn't getting any higher. There was no sloping up. And I realized that at some point there's going to be a significant climb, because where we were supposed to be camping, I knew was elevated from where we were at right now. And when we got to the end, it was like an ancient waterfall. You could tell that obviously water had come down. It was almost like a straight face. There were big boulders at the bottom, and there were boulders that were stacked on top of boulders, and boys were climbing up those boulders and getting almost to the top of the where the waterfall had been and going over the top. And I'm carrying all of this extra weight, and I've got Davy who has a brace on his leg who can't walk. And I realize I can't carry the backpacks, and I can't carry Davy up all those boulders myself. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do, because those boys up there need to be led, and Davy needs me too. And I can't be in two places at once. And I don't know how to take care of Davy, and I don't know how to take care of the boys. And I remember sitting on this boulder, and I told Davy to sit on a boulder that was not too close to me, but it was the closest boulder to me. And I said, "You sit there, I'll sit here." And I'm sitting there, and it's like I'm offering a prayer to the universe. I don't know what to do. I've done everything I can possibly do in this situation right now. I kind of got thrown into this, and I'm asking for help. How do I get Davy up there? Because I can't do it with what I can see right now. And it was as if a voice of somebody was sitting right next to me said, "Stand up and go this direction, go around to the side, and walk up to the cliff wall." And I was like immediately responding, looking around, really, like, where did that voice come from? What's happening? Davy got up when I said, "No, Davy, you sit down, you stay there. You'll see what's going on here." So I walked over to the side, and in the side, I could literally see where there was indentations in the rock, places where you could put a foot and a hand. And I actually started climbing it because I noticed that part of the rock wall wasn't straight up and down. It was kind of concave. It just kind of curved a little bit to the top. And as I got about halfway up, so we're talking maybe 20, 30 feet high, I realized that those handholds and footholds are cut into the stone all the way to the top. And I come back down and I tell Davy, come with me. I take out of my backpack a rope. I tie Davy to me with the rope. I have him hang on to around my shoulders, his hands around my shoulders. And I said, we're going to go up this rock wall. Okay. And we're going up. And he says, isn't this amazing? Do you think the Indians cut this into the rock? And I said, well, it's been here for a couple hundred years, obviously. I said, I don't know who cut it in, but we're using it today. And we went all the way up to the top. I got him to the top. I came back down. I tied the two backpacks and I climbed back up the rock wall with the backpacks hanging below me. And when I got to the top, I was able to take care of the boys. Now, when we went back the next day, we went on the road. We took the road all the way back to where everybody was meeting.
Let's open up the box here and see.
But I just wanted to share with you that story because I am so grateful and I'm so happy that whenever the tyranny of the immediate is not something that I cave into, because what I really wanted to do was just quit. I just wanted to quit, said to hell with it. You boys, you come back down here. We're all going home. I mean, this is ridiculous. But that voice came. It showed me a way where I saw no way. I'm no spiritual superpower. I'm no wonder child of the universe. But a prayer was answered, in my opinion, that day, at that time, that left an impact on me forever. And it left an impact on Davy forever. I attended his wedding many years later, and Davy talked about that day at his wedding as an event that was pivotal to him and allowed him to do the things that he eventually became and did and changed. I haven't said much about this, but Davy ended up becoming an orthopedic surgeon at that point in his life. So what I'm saying is be grateful. Don't give in to the tyranny of the immediate. Keep your mind focused on the important. Kellyanne, thank you for coming in. That was my last final thing. That was my last final thing I was going to talk about tonight. You got any questions or anything for me to answer?
No, I'm just happy. I'm in the middle of construction. So I've looked at the time. I was taking my break. Oh, I can catch it. I can jump on for a little bit.
Well, I'm so glad to have you here. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for buying my book. I was
That's awesome.
I was tickled.
You need to get a bunch of stickers for all of us all over the world that have your book and sign them all and just pop them in the mail.
Do you know anybody who's
those big address stickers?
I don't know what you're talking about, but tell me, do you have do you print up 3D stickers like that?
I do, but it needs your signature. So what I'm saying, go to the office store and get the half page or get the large labels.
Yeah.
They're about 4x4 labels.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you can cut them up, sign them all, send them all to all your, and then we can stick them on the inside of the book.
Ah.
I actually have a John Maxwell book that he did that with.
Can you send me a photograph of that so I can get an idea of what they do?
I will.
Yeah,
I think that would be really cool for you to, because if we're buying it on Amazon or something like that.
Yeah. It can't
and then
be that
it's
bad.
Got your signature and a little message and.
Yeah, send me a photograph of the John Maxwell thing so I'd get an idea, and then I'll move forward with that. That's a good idea, because really I'd like to thank people. It's a little bit, and it'd be a nice personal thing to do.
Yeah. Always that that 1% more, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Just that slight edge. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm all about customer service. So
Yeah. Well, that's what makes you a success.
we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah. So how's the
Website's going to
construction
be,
going?
well, I have, we're just in prep for kitchen renovations. So I'm moving my kitchen out to the veranda, to the porch,
Great.
and because we're taking a wall down on Saturday. So,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, I
Well,
won't have plumbing in the kitchen until for maybe a week or so, but
I don't know about Winnipeg, Canada area very much, Manitoba and all that cold area.
yeah,
But
well, we're in the middle of a heat wave right now.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
it's up
you're
to
doing it the
100
right
degrees
time of
right now.
year. You're doing it the right time of the year. But I will tell you, when I was in Ukraine, in the small little villages, nobody has a kitchen in their house. It's all outdoors on the
Yeah, all
patio.
summer kitchens, all
Well,
outside.
no, it's not summer. It is the kitchen year round. Um,
Yeah,
so it can be minus 26 outside, and there are women who are baking and cooking and stuff out
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And I was there like, I just can't believe that people actually do that. But yeah, yeah. But the summer
No, it's
kitchen idea is a good idea. I like that. Yeah, I grew up in
yeah,
hot Arizona. You
yeah.
baking or
Even we're
cooking.
actually hotter than the average temperature in Arizona right now. But all of Western North America is going through a major heat wave.
Well,
So,
I know. And of course, they want to tell you it's climate change, but
ugh,
we all know it's customary. It happens. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
Well,
happened in the early 20s.
well,
Same thing.
yeah. So you're going to get a new kitchen for yourself.
Yes, I am. This has been 3 years in the planning and making. I used to work at IKEA, so I used to collect. I've been collecting all my cabinets in the scratch and dent area, the return
hmm
area. So
You're
now
good to
it's
go,
all,
huh?
yeah,
Are you
yeah.
getting
So
excited?
I am. Once I get my summer kitchen finished,
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it's all.
that's outside wall. It's gone.
Well, no, this is. I'm in my porch right now, my veranda
Okay. All right. You're on the
or
veranda now.
gazebo or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call this.
Yeah.
It's got a roof. Gonna
Uh,
have fabric walls so the sun doesn't bake that area. So
yeah. I bet you electric fans are a hot moving item now, if you could even get them at all, huh?
yeah, yeah. And we're going to be getting a new furnace this winter anyhow, so the air conditioning will be a little bit better. But
Well, that's
yeah,
good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that you're going to have that, and where you live, having heating is like so incredibly important. Just absolutely amazing. Well,
yeah.
Kellyanne, I need to close this thing off because I only get 45
Okay,
minutes maximum. So
awesome.
thank you so much. Take care. I appreciate you
You
being here.
betcha. And I'll send you a picture of that book, and then you can. It's just labels in the at the. You can even get the. So I don't know if you get that size at the dollar store, but
Well,
you can get them at.
I have no idea, but I do have a local office supply guy called
Yeah,
Ryman's,
you'd
and we'll
definitely be
take a look
able to
at it.
get them at the office supply store.
Okay, great. Super. Good
Okay.
idea. Thank you, Capital. I appreciate it. Take
Talk to you
care.
later.
Bye.
Thanks, Gary.